it's still a finite place in which we're in on the physical plane.
I love that way of describing it, because when you look at yourself in a different scale like that, and you look at our humankind existence in the grand scheme of the universe, the amount of galaxies, what we're experiencing,
Well, like
the fact
a speck of dust on this table.
Absolutely. And to take it back a step, let's kind of go over relativity. Let's break it. Use the example of the boat, because I think that is very clear way to help people understand the law of relativity and how perspective is not only a mind type of thing, but it's how you experience reality.
Yeah, so if I was on the shore, like we were talking about earlier, if I was on the shoreline and saw a boat going by, I place into a statement in which the ground I'm standing on is still. Therefore, the boat must be moving. Mm-hmm. So relative to me, the boat is moving. Now, if you're on the boat, and you can actually easily say, and there's somebody on the shoreline, as the boat's moving, relative to the boat, you are not moving. So therefore, you can actually say the shoreline's moving. So relative to you, the person on the shoreline is moving. Now, because most human beings agree that water is in the movement and the earth is not, we can go deep into that to actually reverse it. But I'm not here to do that. But we're talking about the relevance to understanding in life. People argue over things that don't relate to them. So that's why you never get to a point. But like in football, to get a first down and to advance into the keep moving and have the offense use the ball, they have to gain 10 yards or more in order to keep the ball on their side. Well, that's relevant to the game of football, but not to the game of tennis. That has nothing to do with tennis. So often we get caught up in this infinite universe, and sitting here, we're infinite beings, but yet we're in this finite place. But people argue things that aren't even relevant to the other person because they don't see it. They don't step out of it. But there are relevant things within the field of any type of... So within sport, everyone playing football understands the relative to the 10 yards advancement in order to get a first down. But not in tennis. It doesn't apply.
Talk about that high school experiment with the dropping the ball.
Oh, all right.
Because I love this visual concept.
That's a visual. But
this is helpful, so people will kind of... Yeah. Because like often we'll say, "Oh, I saw it, so therefore this is real." It, like, for example, the court of law. You go into a court of law, and we have people stand up and give testimony, and they say, "I was here, I saw this," and that holds a weight. You try to take that in the science world, and you tell a scientist, "Oh no, I saw this with my own eyes," when you're talking about an experiment or something happening, and they'll laugh, and they'll say, "Well, that's why we have tools that measure beyond our sight, beyond emotion. What you saw that day could be different based on the amount of water you drank, what time you slept, what happened to you that day, where you were emotionally. Yeah. All of these things factor into what you saw." And so scientifically speaking, or I should say from a scientific perspective, saying you saw something with your own two eyes and witnessed it, if you saw it a week later and you were in a different state, you would have perceived what you saw in a much different way.
Yeah, and
that's what I want us to get at with the law of relativity.
Yeah, well, that actually is perspective onto it. So the law of relativity is, in other words, if
but this is a good parallel when you explain the dropping of the ball. You can get an idea.
Because when someone sees something, and they could say, "I saw a red car drive by." Now, what in a court of law? But what did you feel about the red car? That's perspective. But that's scientifically proven that I saw a red car on Tuesday. But so relativity and perspective are different. So in other words, relative is something that's just based on the understanding of where you are. All right. Now, how I feel about it, that's going to be my perspective onto it. So I want to clarify that. So what you're talking about, we were talking about earlier, is if I was on the shoreline, there was a sailboat sailing by at a pretty decent rate of speed, and there was a person actually on the boat, and then a ball was dropped from the top of the mast. To the person on the shoreline, they would see a triangulation based on the speed and the projection of the boat moving, so therefore the ball would move away from the mast, But for the person on the boat, the ball fell parallel to the mass. So it just came straight down. Thanks for that little visual there for the hearing impaired.
Hey, I'm just making sure we got a nice visual up front.
Yeah.
But one way like this, exact same scenario, both people are not wrong.
Yeah.
Guys, this gives you a visual way to understand what Frank and I are talking about.
Yeah, that's relativity. That's relevance. Yeah.
Both are right.
Yeah. Perspective it can be pulled into that. Perspective is how I feel about it and how I look at it and stuff like that. So you can entwine the two, but we're talking about relevance in that aspect. So.
Oh, no, absolutely. I just like to dive into the science side, or how people's dated what we are a being, this body, what's going on. So how we interpret a situation is going to be based on a multitude of different things.
Yeah.
How much we've slept, how much we've eaten. All of these affect what ways we're looking at this.
If you believe that's what affects you.
Yes, absolutely. Everything is a permission slip.
You'll have a scientist that will do studies on sleep, and they'll say the average person, male, anywhere from 7 to 8 hours, female, everywhere from 9 to 10. And then you get high-functioning people that sleep 4 hours. Well, where do they fit into this equation? It really comes down to all these scientists, when they do these studies, are influenced by their how they want to see it output. So they actually have.
That's what quantum physics has proven. What you're searching for.
Yes, what you search for, you will find, and depending on the variance and how you find. So if a scientist goes in to do an experiment, they already have some bit of prejudice or sensitivity to something. So okay, if they didn't have any thought onto the matter to begin with, they would not even do the experiment. They would have no girth to do it. So, and that's what quantum physics shows us. All these studies we do, whoever did the study wanted it to turn out this way, or probably didn't believe it would turn out this way. So if I was doing a study and I didn't believe it would turn out this way, even though I wanted it to turn out this way, it would turn out in the opposite direction which I wanted, because my subconscious, my belief, will outweigh what I want to happen opposed to what I believe will happen.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's how the brain works.
So if I believe I need 8 hours of sleep in order to function well, I must get 8 hours of sleep. Where I like personally to step out of that is because sometimes I might not have control of the 8 hours of sleep, or if I need 8 hours of sleep, I'm thinking I need 8 hours of sleep, and if I only get 7.5 hours, I'm deficient by 30 minutes. And what does that 30 minutes mean to me? Am I gonna?
I'm thrown off for the whole day.
Like,
30
oh my
minutes.
God, like a 5 minutes. Jeez, I just 5 more minutes. It would have been a perfect day. But what happens is I'm attaching to a concept that was sold to me by someone who did a study of maybe 10 people, and maybe they were convinced that 8 hours.
Maybe 500 people.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, but maybe they were convinced that 8 hours of sleep is the proper amount of sleep. Who knows? Like, we don't know. Like, in obviously different times of the year based on the sun. Like, as we go into it, I'm not saying to disassociate or disassemble these studies, but we are powerful beings, and how we believe about something. So maybe the person that gets 4 hours of sleep is like, because they're a grand achiever. I'm going to do it in 4. The hell with this study.
I only need 4.
Yeah.
And they would be just fine. Again, it's what they put their mind on.
Yeah, because think about this. I only need 4 hours of sleep. But what happens if you got 8? Would you wake up pissed? So even saying I only need 4 is relevant to saying I need 8. Rather, if you kind of play out and says, whatever sleep I get, I'll be adequate and efficient for the day ahead. I'll be able to get through the day no matter what, because it's in my mind, But the thing is I can say that, but what's my subconscious really tell me? All right. So these are all programmable thoughts that put in us, and as we learn to operate better on this plane, you actually have to step out, rise above it, and then reset that and see no matter what happens, the day is going to be good. Rather than I need this to happen in order for the day to be good.
And that resetting that Frank's talking about, guys, that's called neuroplasticity. Okay, so
Well, that's what the scientists call it.
yeah. There you go. Because there is no
before the word neuroscience plasticity, Buddha knew
was.
this already. Jesus knew this already, but that term didn't exist. And
Absolutely.
I'm not knocking the understanding of existence, because we had everything from Socrates, Plato to Aristotle already talking about this. But yet they were from the more Greek philosophy, so the terminology would have been different. But it doesn't really matter.
And that's a great point, because science is just a language. It's just a way for us to convey a message without an attached subconscious meaning to it.
Yeah.
Where, if Frank and I were to reference the Bible, Frank and I are looking this from a universal perspective. We're not talking about it from a perspective. People see things through a certain lens. Oh man, I'm not religious. Well, the more you push against or away from something, the more you're going to see it, the more you're going to, life's the Chinese finger trap. The more you pull and struggle and strife, the tighter it gets. Yeah. The tighter a grip it has on you. It's not until you let go that it's only been my mind making religion a big deal for me to hear. Or making this, or giving me this impression. Yeah. You see what I mean? It's all mind. Everything is a mental construct, and the more we loosen up what is and what is not and what should and what shouldn't be, you see how malleable this reality that we live in, and it gets it's nice. It's a relaxing feeling. It's like, wow, everything that I've been kind of thinking is so concrete. It's not. It's simply in the mind. And this neuroplasticity that Frank and I are talking about, it's important to see, wow, okay, how the brain works is the brain is simply there. It operates on two laws, principles, whatever you want to call it. It's the law of association, assignment, and then the law of repetition. Your brain is only there simply to confirm your beliefs. So as you're taking in information, if you have a belief system of I need 4 hours sleep, or this is right, or this is wrong, whatever, your brain only filters information that confirms your belief and filters out any information that does not confirm your belief. And so as you're that's why, is this good, is this bad? There's no such thing. Your mind is what makes it so. And and
the mind, well, actually, if you have a belief in something, your mind's going to protect you for the belief, so it's going to keep everything out. So the question here is, so getting back to the root, how we started this thing, the radio would be out of our control, where the guitar would be in my control. So I get to make the music rather than actually being stuck within the field of only listening to songs that are put out in front of me. So this is what we're talking about. So what is it that you prefer? Then allow that belief to enter in. But people want to find, well, before I can believe that, I want to know if it's true. And I'm like, you make it so by believing it. And everyone that believes something will always find evidence to it. This is why when we compare beliefs, we always get into this ruckus. Because in the law of polarity, it always will be. So everything I believe in, argument I have about something has an equal and valid argument on the other end of the aisle. We're both right.